She said, I do what I want. Went to party with guy friends and car. My name is Benjamin. I'm 26 years old, and I've been in a relationship with Marta for 2 years. She's 24. Until recently, I would have said without hesitation that she was the person I was going to spend the rest of my life with. That's why it's so hard for me to understand how things are falling apart in such a short time. We met when we both worked a lot and had quite similar routines. I've always been a focused person, disciplined, very work-oriented. I'm a manager at a car dealership. It's not a glamorous job, but it's stable and has allowed me to build an orderly life. When I met Marta, she was like that too. She studied, worked independently as an assistant on audiovisual projects, and constantly talked about growing, formalizing her career, having a calm life. Our relationship was good. I'd even say very good. It wasn't a perfect relationship, but it was healthy. We argued normally. We supported each other. We planned things together. We traveled several times. One of those trips was to the beach, another shorter one to a nearby city, and the most important one was France. That trip cost me a lot of effort. I saved for months, cut expenses, worked overtime. I'm not from a rich family, so for me, it was a huge achievement. Marta had always said that her dream was to visit France, but it was something she had imagined since adolescence. I wanted to make it come true. During that trip in Paris, I proposed to her. I know it sounds cliche, and I'm aware that many people do it, but for her it was important. She cried, said yes, she was happy. I was convinced I had made the right decision. We agreed not to get married immediately. We decided to live together first, get to know each other in daily coexistence. It seemed like the most responsible thing to do. 3 months ago, we moved in together to an apartment we rented together. At first, everything went well, organizing furniture, choosing things, new routines. I was excited, even nervous, but happy. The problem started shortly after. Marta got a job at a commercial production company. She's a camerawoman, and at first I felt proud of her. It was a good step for her career, just what she said she wanted. She started with weird schedules, long shoots, leaving late. I understood. Her job requires it. What I didn't expect was the change that came after. Within a few weeks, she started talking about a new group of friends from work. At first, I didn't pay attention. It's normal to make new friends, especially when you enter a creative environment. She started going out with them after work, some days during the week, almost every weekend. She always said they were team meetings, that socializing was important. I tried to be understanding. I didn't want to be controlling or exaggerated, but over time I noticed she was spending less and less time with me. We no longer had dinner together. We no longer watched series. We no longer went out ourselves. If I proposed something, she often already had plans with them. There was one particular night that bothered me. She came home very late, clearly tired, but also altered, as if she was coming from a party. I asked her calmly how it went. She told me it was fine, but they stayed having drinks after filming. I asked who was there. She avoided the answer. She was vague. In the following days, I started to realize something I hadn't clearly noticed before. All those new friends were men. I don't want this to be misunderstood. I don't think a woman can't have male friends. I don't think that alone is a betrayal. But the frequency, the hours, the environment, the change in attitude, everything started to make me uncomfortable. One night I decided to say it, not shouting, not accusing. I told her I was worried about seeing her go out so much, always with the same group, and that I felt we were drifting apart. I also told her honestly that the fact that they were only men made me feel insecure, not out of absolute distrust, but because I no longer saw clear boundaries. Her reaction surprised me. She told me I was exaggerating, that I had always been very rigid, that she was free, and that she wasn't going to stop living her life because of my insecurities. It hurt more than I expected, not because she's not right that she's free, but because of the tone, as if my concern was irrelevant, as if I was in the way. I asked her to at least introduce them to me. I told her that maybe by meeting them my discomfort would go away. She reluctantly agreed. A few days ago, she organized a meeting at a bar. She said several from her group would go, and that it would be good for me to stop imagining things. That's where everything got worse. From the start, I noticed they were very familiar, joking, loud, with excessive confidence. At first, I tried to be friendly, polite, but soon uncomfortable comments started. One made a joke insinuating that I was very permissive. Another said something like Marta was lucky to have such a calm boyfriend, because they wouldn't let their partner go out like that alone. Hey, if you're watching this and thinking this guy should have ended it right there, leave a like on this video, and tell me in the comments, would you have stayed or left at this point? I want to know your opinion. Then one, laughing, dropped a phrase that I still have stuck in my throat, something about how I must be a fool for allowing her to go out alone with them all the time. Marta laughed. She didn't say anything to defend me, didn't put a stop to it, didn't change the subject. She just laughed as if it were any joke. At that moment, I felt a mixture of shame, rage, and sadness. I stayed quiet the rest of the night. When we left the bar, in the car, I complained to her. I told her those comments were disrespectful and that the least I expected was for her to defend me. She got upset. She said I was exaggerating, that that's how they were, that I shouldn't take everything personally, that it was just humor. We ended up arguing strongly. I told her I didn't feel respected, that I didn't feel like her partner. She responded that I was ruining her new stage because of jealousy. The argument continued in the apartment. It escalated. In the end, she went to sleep in the bedroom, and I ended up on the couch. And here I am now writing this while she sleeps, wondering if I'm seeing things that don't exist or if something really broke and I'm the only one noticing it. I don't know if I'm being too rigid, insecure, or old-fashioned, or if my boundaries are reasonable. I don't know if this relationship still has a future or if it's already started down a path I won't be able to stop. That's why I'm writing here. I need advice. Am I exaggerating, or is what I feel valid? Post update. 3 weeks have passed since I wrote my first post. I read all the comments. There were many more than I expected. The vast majority said the same thing. In the relationship immediately, don't be a doormat. Don't accept disrespect disguised as freedom. Others were more nuanced, but still agreed that something wasn't right. I'm not going to lie, I doubted a lot. Not because I didn't see the problems, but because we lived together. Separating wasn't just an emotional decision, it was also practical. There were contracts, furniture, routines, plans. I still loved her, or at least I loved the idea of what we thought we were. I thought maybe I exaggerated, that maybe with communication it could be fixed. I tried to do it right. These 3 weeks were full of arguments, not constant shouting, but a tense atmosphere. Long conversations that ended the same way. We talking about boundaries and respect, or talking about control and freedom. It was as if we were arguing two completely different things. A few days after my post, I proposed we sit down and talk seriously. I told her it wasn't about her friends or prohibitions, but about how I felt displaced and ridiculed, that I no longer felt like her partner, but someone who was in the way of her new life. To my surprise, that time she seemed to listen to me. She stayed quiet. She told me she hadn't realized I felt that way, that maybe she had gotten carried away by the excitement of the new job and new friendships. She said she didn't want to lose me, that I was important. That gave me some hope. So I gave her an ultimatum, although I never thought I would call it that. I told her I needed to see real changes, that for me a relationship involves considering the other person, setting external boundaries, acting as a team, that I couldn't continue feeling like the last one on her priority list. She nodded. She said she understood. That night we slept together. I thought maybe there was still something to save. The next day, in the afternoon, while I was at work, she sent me a message. It said something like, "This weekend I'm going to go with the guys. They rented a cabin. It's 2 of their birthdays." At first I thought it was a joke. I even smiled with disbelief at the phone. When I got home and asked her, she confirmed she was serious. I told her calmly that after everything we had talked about, it seemed like a bad idea to me, that I didn't feel comfortable, that we were barely trying to fix something, and going away all weekend with that same group didn't help. Her attitude changed immediately. She told me she couldn't believe I was still on the same thing, that I had no right to tell her what to do. She started raising her voice. She called me a crybaby, insecure, and controlling. She said I wanted to lock her up, that I was afraid she would meet different people. I tried to explain that it wasn't about forbidding her anything, but about what that represented for me, for us. I told her that if she decided to go, I would understand it as a clear decision about the relationship. And she looked at me with a coldness I didn't know in her and said the phrase that finished breaking everything. I live my life however I want, and no man is going to come and stop me. After saying that, she went to the room, took a backpack, threw in clothes without folding, personal items, phone charger. She passed by me without looking at me, closed the door, and left. I was left alone in the apartment. I cried. I'm not going to pretend I was strong at that moment. I cried for a couple of hours, not just because of the breakup, but because of the way, because I realized that deep down I had been alone for weeks. I cried for the plans, for the commitment, for France, for all the effort that now seemed to mean nothing. Then something changed. I got up from the couch and looked at the apartment, the things I had bought, my furniture, my books, my clothes. I realized I didn't have to stay waiting for her to come back for the conversation to repeat itself. I started to get to work. I took out suitcases, started separating my things. It wasn't impulsive, it was strange and calm, as if I had already accepted what was happening before it occurred. I loaded my car several times. I took clothes, documents, my personal objects, important things. I left what was clearly hers. I called my parents, explained the situation without many details. They told me to come with them, not to think too much about it. When I finished loading, I drove to their house. They received me without uncomfortable questions, just with silence and space. Now I'm writing this from the room I grew up in. It's Sunday night. I know she's going to return to the apartment tomorrow after her weekend. She's going to find that I'm not there, that my things are no longer there. I haven't blocked her. I haven't written to her. I haven't announced anything officially. But for me, the relationship ended the moment she crossed that door with the backpack on her shoulder. It wasn't because of the bar comments. It wasn't just because of the friends. It was because of the certainty that there was no longer an us. There was only her individual life and me orbiting around, getting in the way when I asked for consideration. I'm not writing this seeking validation or pity. I write because although it hurts, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Clarity. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know if she's going to look for me, if she's going to get angry, if she's going to victimize herself, or if she'll simply move on. What I do know is that I can't build a life with someone who sees commitment as a threat. Thanks to those who commented on the first post. I didn't make decisions immediately, but reading other perspectives helped me not normalize what shouldn't be normalized. If there's more to tell, I will. For now, that's all. Post update 2. I didn't think I would write another update so soon, but what happened on Monday ended up closing something inside me. It wasn't a long or dramatic conversation. In fact, it was cold, short, short and in a way definitive. On Monday afternoon, around 5 p.m., my phone rang. It was her. I answered because I knew sooner or later it would happen. We had lived together, we shared things, and I had left the apartment without a final conversation. I assumed she wanted to talk about logistics or the contract. Her voice sounded distant from the first second. "Hello," she said. "I guess you went to your parents." I nodded, although I knew she couldn't see me. "Yes." There was a brief silence, and then she added, "I'm nearby. I'll be there in a few minutes." She didn't ask if she could come. She didn't ask how I was. There was no, "We need to talk." She hung up. During those minutes, I sat on the edge of the bed. I thought maybe she would come calmer, that maybe after the weekend there would be reflection, an apology, even a minimal one. I didn't expect her to beg. I just expected humanity. When I heard she arrived, I went out. She didn't come up, didn't enter. We stood talking in the street like two strangers. She looked calm, not tired, not upset, cold. She looked at me, put her hand in her bag, and took something out. She extended her hand toward me. "I came to give you your ring," she said. "It doesn't mean anything to me anymore." It took me a few seconds to understand what I was seeing. It was the engagement ring, the same one I had taken to France, the same one I had chosen with so much care, the same one she had cried with emotion about. I took it without saying anything. I stayed silent, not because I didn't want to talk, but because I didn't know what to say at that moment. She was the one who spoke again. "What?" she said with an ironic tone. "Did you think I came to kneel and ask for your forgiveness?" She looked me up and down. "Did you really think I couldn't live without you?" Every word was precise, as if she was measuring the impact. "I'm a functional adult," she continued. "I can pay all the rent. I don't need you." She paused briefly and then finished. "I just came to give you back the ring. I think you're going to need it more, so you can sell it and buy yourself some new clothes. You've been wearing the same ones for years. And to be clear, I don't want anything of yours." I didn't raise my voice, didn't argue, didn't defend myself. It wasn't out of weakness, but because I understood something in that instant. I wasn't talking to someone who wanted to understand, but to someone who needed to affirm herself by crushing the other. I looked at her for a few seconds, not with rage, but a kind of deep disappointment. She turned before I could say anything else. She walked to her car and left without looking back. Since that moment, we haven't spoken again. She hasn't written to me to arrange anything else. She hasn't claimed anything from me. Neither have I. I haven't blocked her, but I haven't sought contact either. I think we both understood there was nothing more to share, at least not emotionally. The only thing I've seen of her are her social media. She posts photos at parties, at meetings, at bars, at her work. Always surrounded by people, always smiling, always showing she's moving on. There are no clear indirect messages, no messages directed at me, just a constant narrative of freedom, activity, and movement. At first, I admit, it affected me to see her so calm while I was processing everything. It made me feel replaceable, disposable, as if 2 years of relationship had been reduced to a carelessly returned object, a ring on the palm of a hand. But over the days, I started to see those images differently, not as signs of happiness, but as public affirmations, like someone who needs to prove outward and to herself that she made the right decision. It's not my place to judge if it's real or not. I just know it's not my place to be there. The ring is in my drawer. I haven't sold it. I don't know if I will. Not out of romantic attachment, but because it represents a stage of my life that I need to process calmly. I'm not writing this for someone to tell me she's the villain or that I'm a victim. We're both adults. We both made decisions. But today, with everything that happened, I can say something with certainty. I wasn't in a balanced relationship. Love shouldn't feel like competition with a lifestyle. It shouldn't demand silence to avoid conflicts. It shouldn't turn boundaries into reasons for mockery. Sometimes things don't break all at once. Sometimes they break when someone gives you back a ring without trembling in their voice and makes it clear that not only do they no longer love you, but they need to minimize you to feel free. For now, I'm still with my parents. I'm reorganizing my things, my routine, my plans. I don't know what's next. I don't know if later there will be another update, but I do know this. There are goodbyes that don't need more words. This was one of them. Post-update final. 6 months have passed since the last time I wrote here. I thought that update had been the definitive closure. For a long time, I didn't feel the need to come back. My life, although not perfect, was better. I sold the ring months ago. It wasn't a dramatic act. I simply took it to a jewelry store, accepted the offer, and left. I used that money for practical things. Nothing symbolic. It wasn't a new beginning or an epic scene. It was just moving forward. I went back to living alone. I changed some routines. I lost weight, not for revenge or to prove anything, but because stress decreased. I slept better. I went back to training. I focused more on work. I started going out with friends I had neglected. I wasn't euphoric, but I was stable, and for me, that was already a lot. I didn't think about her daily. Sometimes I remembered things like any relationship that ends, but without rage or intense nostalgia. I felt that stage was closed, until one afternoon, without looking for it, I saw her. I was scrolling without attention on Facebook when a post of hers appeared. It wasn't a normal photo. It was the typical generic image with a dark background, a brief phrase in white letters, clearly designed to provoke empathy. It said, "I wish I had listened to him." Nothing more. No tags, no explanation. The comments were full of questions, messages of support, hearts, words of encouragement. I didn't understand what she was referring to. For a moment, I thought she was talking about her work, her family, or simply a late reflection. I didn't pay attention. I closed the app and continued with my day. A few hours later, my cell phone vibrated. It was a message from her. "Hi, Benjamin, are you busy?" Seeing her name on the screen made me more uncomfortable than I expected. It wasn't fear. It wasn't emotion either. It was surprise. I hesitated for a few minutes before responding. Finally, I wrote, "Hi, tell me." Her response came almost immediately. immediately. I'd like to see you. I didn't respond. I left the message on scene. It didn't seem necessary to resume contact. For me, there was nothing to resolve. Minutes later, she wrote again. Believe me, it interests you. It's about your health. It could be at risk. That phrase alerted me. There I did feel an emptiness in my stomach. I responded almost immediately. What are you talking about? Let's meet at a cafe, she wrote. I think it's better in person. I didn't understand anything. I doubted. I thought of all the possibilities. None were good. Still, I agreed. We agreed to meet that same afternoon in a public place. When I saw her arrive, it took me a few seconds to recognize her. She was emaciated, much thinner. Her skin looked pale, dull, her eyes sunken. It wasn't the normal change of someone who has been through things. It was evident that something wasn't right. She sat in front of me. She didn't smile. There were no awkward greetings or long detours. I was direct. What happened? She breathed deeply several times, as if she had to gather strength. I have HIV, she said. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't dramatize. She said it like someone who has already repeated it too many times. I felt a sharp blow to my chest. My first reaction was fear. Pure instinct. What was all I could say. That's why I asked you to come, she continued. You need to get tested. She explained that she was already in treatment, that she had known for a short time, that she was dealing with all that. She said she thought she knew where she had gotten it, and that's why she thought I probably didn't have it, but that it was still important to rule out any risk. I asked her with a tense voice where it had happened. She didn't avoid it. That weekend, she said, when I went to the cabins with the guys. She was quiet for a second and then added without looking at me. I was hurt, spiteful. I did it with them. With all of them. She paused. But the truth is I had already been unfaithful with a couple of them weeks before. That's why I'm telling you to get tested. I didn't feel rage at that moment. I felt something worse. Emptiness. She accompanied me to get the rapid test that same day. We waited in silence. The result came back negative. Still, the doctor recommended a more specific test to be completely sure. She accompanied me again days later. The definitive results were negative. When the doctor confirmed that and we left the office, she stopped. She looked at me for the first time since we had met again and said with a broken voice, "At least I'm glad you weren't affected." She swallowed. "You did the right thing by ending it with me." That's when she started crying. Not in a scandalous way. She cried like someone tired, defeated. She asked me for forgiveness. She said she should have listened to me, that she confused freedom with escape, validation with excess. I had always imagined, and I suppose many do, a typical scenario where time puts things in their place. A meeting after, her seeing me better, stronger, more successful, and realizing what she lost. I never imagined this. I tried to console her, not because I felt obligated, but because seeing her like that didn't give me any satisfaction. "You're a good man," she told me. "Find a good woman." She looked at me with eyes full of tears. I couldn't be one. I asked her what had happened with that group of friends. She sighed. "Several have HIV," she responded. "Nobody knew. Everything came to light when one started with severe symptoms." She shook her head. "After that, everyone blamed each other. They fought. I don't see them anymore." She told me she lost her job when she reported her condition, that now she was helping her mother in a small business collecting money at the beauty salon, but that there were days when she didn't even have the strength to get out of bed. I didn't know what to say. I just hugged her, not as a couple, as a human being. We said goodbye without promises or dramatics. I wished her well. I walked back to my car with a strange feeling. Not relief, not triumph. Perspective. That night, I reflected a lot about small decisions that change a life. About how setting boundaries in time doesn't always save you from suffering. It sometimes saves you from something worse. About how respect is non-negotiable, even if it comes disguised as love. Sometimes doing the right thing doesn't make you feel good immediately, but over time it allows you to keep living.